We've got Stephen Kinnock, who's waiting for us, I believe, in the lobby.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Kinnock, welcome to the programme.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Is it as chaotic there as it is here?
Yes, it's shambolic, frankly, absolute shambles. I don't know how shambolic it is over there, but it's pretty shambolic here.
Well, neither of us knew who was going to interview you at that very moment. That's how shambolic it is, but it looks like I've got it, so here we go.
Okay.
So what is your impression of what's happened this afternoon?
I mean, it's a humiliation for the Prime Minister. She knew she was going to be humiliated if she'd pushed ahead with the vote tomorrow, but it would have been so much better to do it so that the will of the House has clearly been expressed, and she could have then gone to Brussels with an alternative position. Now she's just leaving everybody in a state of suspended animation. I'm hearing even that this whole thing may not now be retabled for Parliament to vote on it until after Christmas. It's an absolute shambles.
When you infer that she could have gone back to enact the will of the House, it's not necessarily the will of the Labour Party she would have enacted, is it? This business about staying in the single market and the customs union and still having freedom of movement. There was no way she would ever go back with that, however heavily this plan was defeated.
Well, I think I'll say what I think should have happened. I think she should have gone ahead with the vote tomorrow, and when she'd lost it, she should have gone straight to the steps of Downing Street and said, in consultation with Cabinet colleagues, we realise that a softer version of Brexit is the only way forward. It's the only option that can command a cross-party parliamentary majority. She could have then brought that back to the House the following day, and I think it would have put Labour in a position where we would have had to support it, because we're calling for a customs union and a strong single market deal. And if that had secured a cross-party parliamentary majority, she could have then taken that to Brussels. The problem she has with European colleagues in Brussels is they're going to say to her, well, we're not really interested in giving you anything because there doesn't seem to be a majority for anything that we offer.
Whatever you think about Theresa May, what she does appear to have, or certainly what a lot of people are texting this programme saying she has principles, and she made it quite clear today that your plan about the single market and the customs union means Britain would still be taking rules into her, to quote her, would still have freedom of movement and would still be making large payments into the European Union. Now, the majority of those who voted out, they didn't want that, did they? There is no mandate for your plan.
I've always felt that a 52-48 mandate was a mandate to move house but to stay in the same neighbourhood. Always felt that there was a mandate for a soft Brexit. I've been saying for 2 years we should take the Norway option. We've got a good, strong cross-party group now, Norway Plus. We understand there are at least 10 cabinet ministers that support it. Amber Rudd was out for it over the weekend. The red lines that the Prime Minister laid down in her Lancaster House speech, they were interpreted by her and about a half a dozen close advisors. Actually, when you look at the mandate, 52-48, who is to say that is to leave the single market and the customs union? It's time for a radical rethink, and Norway Plus is the only option that will actually deliver this.
Some of the voices I'm not hearing during all this debate are those Labour MPs in the North and the Midlands and the North East whose constituencies voted out quite heavily. And part of that was due to concerns about immigration and freedom of movement. Are they being silenced by Jeremy Corbyn, or are they just do they not want to reflect what their constituents perhaps said?
I think a lot of colleagues are waiting for clarity from our front bench and from our leadership. We've set out our 6 tests. We've set out what we want in terms of a customs union and a strong single market deal. What we haven't set out is the roadmap for getting there. How do we get from A to B? I've always felt that's Norway Plus. If somebody else has got a better plan on the front bench, well, we need to hear it. So I think a lot of colleagues are now in a kind of holding pattern, waiting for that clarity. I really hope that it will come, and if it does come, I think we've got then not just the what, but also the how.
What does that mean, though, that you are willing to try to persuade millions of Labour voters who voted out that they should actually accept freedom of movement and large payments into the European Union?
Well, Articles 112 and 113 of the EEA agreement actually enable the emergency break. They're safeguard measures. You can suspend and reform free movement of labour.
You know that, and I know that. It's temporary, so that's short term, isn't it?
No. 112, under that you convene a conference where you've unilaterally triggered the suspension of free movement of labour, and you then put forward proposals. If the EU doesn't like those proposals, they can take retaliatory measures, but they can't force you to reverse them. On the Court of Justice, the EFTA Court is not the European Court of Justice. Quite a few times it's diverged from the ECJ. So, look, I mean, it's a trade-off. There are trade-offs and compromises all the way, but I remember a time when compromise used to be at the heart of British politics. I think think we need to get back to that. Let's have a sensible, pragmatic, bridge-building form of Brexit.
Have you had any conversations at all with your constituents who voted to leave by 60 to 40? Have you spoke to them and tried to persuade them that freedom of movement's actually a good thing?
Yeah, I actually run a series in my constituency of events called Divided Views, Common Future, and I bring constituents with all sorts of views together. We have an excellent discussion. It's flip charts and post-it note stuff. And, you know, there are divided views, but they've been clear with me that they can see that I'm trying to navigate a way through this complete mess, this constitutional crisis that we find ourselves in. And they say 112, you know, when I explain Article 112 and 113, they say, well, you know, that's better than we've got, and we want a common market for the 21st century. We want to go back to the basic strong economic relationship.
That's what you want, but not necessarily what all Labour MPs want. And just final point to you, I put it to you that actually your party is as divided as the Conservatives, and by saying everything's on the table, that's just making the table bigger, isn't it? And at some point you're going to have to move from a dining table to, I would say, a footstool. And actually make a decision.
And I've been absolutely straight. I share the frustration that we haven't set out a clear route map. We've said what we want. We haven't said how we're going to get there. And if you have a what without a how, it lacks credibility. So we need that clear plan for how we get there. My view is it's Norway plus, but there's lots of other views out there.
Stephen Kinnock, are you going back into the fray now or going for a lie down?
I'm going to put a cold towel on my head and see what I do next.
All right. Speak to you later. Thank you. That's the